Toy trains. The first real train was called a wagonway. Built in 1550 in France, the contraption was used to haul coal from mines. It ran on wooden tracks and was propelled by a series of large iron pins. The pins, in a narrow groove between the tracks, moved the wagonway along in a conveyor belt fashion. Toy trains soon followed. Made of wood or tin, the earliest trains were pull toys known as floor runners. A long cord was attached to the train, making it easy for children to pull along. Wind-up toys were invented in Germany during the Middle Ages. By the 16th century, a toy train powered by a top appeared. To operate the toy, a top was stuck into a gear beside the track. The top was then wound up and made to start spinning. As it spun, the gear turned and the train slowly circled the small track. Toy trains powered by wind-up mechanisms date back to the 1700s. The first steam-powered toy trains were invented in 1838, though their manufacture did not become widespread until the 1880s. These early steam engine toys became fairly common in Europe, but not in the United States. Around the turn of the 20th century, an American teenager, Joshua Lionel Cohen, invented a miniature railroad car. Unlike earlier toy trains, Joshua's was powered by electricity. It worked well, but it looked more like an open cigar box on wheels than a boxcar. Initially, Josh used the electric chain just to amuse himself. After loading the car with various items, mostly toys, he'd watch the train go for a journey on the tracks. Then, that circled his bedroom. At the age of 21, Josh was still fascinated with his toy train and continued improving it. One day, in 1901, the thought occurred to him that maybe he could sell his invention. With the electric train under his arm, he approached Robert Ingersoll, the owner of several toy shops in New York. Josh pitched the train as an animated advertisement. Placed in the display window for one of Mr. Ingersoll's shops, it would carry his toys around the circular track. Mr. Ingersoll agreed to give the young man's idea a try. He paid $4 for the gadget, and Josh set the train up in the display window. Early the next morning, Josh returned to the toy store to see how his advertising gimmick was going. When he looked in the display window, he was disappointed to discover that the train was no longer there. Upset, he rushed inside and asked Mr. Ingersoll what happened to his train. Mr. Ingersoll smiled warmly and told Josh to relax. Josh's train had been a big hit, but not quite the way they had expected. What had happened, Mr. Ingersoll explained, was that the train display had immediately caught the attention of a passerby, but instead of buying any of the other toys, the man bought the train. Josh stood there speechless. When Mr. Ingersoll asked if he could make more trains, Josh said enthusiastically that he could, and that he would start right away. The two shook hands. Josh was in business. Josh made another train as fast as he could, and it was purchased within an hour after going up for sale. Robert Ingersoll ordered more and more. Soon other stores in the area were buying Josh's electric trains. In 1906, Josh Cohen patented his invention, improved it greatly, and then started his own company. In naming the company, he used his middle name, Lionel. Though other companies would eventually follow, Lionel was truly the first name in toy trains and has become by far the best known. From the start, Lionel trains were marketed for boys and their fathers. Early advertisements included girls only in the background, admiring what their fathers and brothers were doing. Half a century passed before the Lionel Company realized its mistake and changed its marketing strategy. In 1957, the company introduced what is now known as the Girls' Train. The train set came in pastel colors, including a pink locomotive, yellow boxcars, and a blue caboose. But the train set did not go over well. What the directors of the company failed to realize was that girls wanted the real thing. In fact, girls who received such trains as gifts almost always ended up painting their colorful toy trains black. Today, the Ingersoll Company has a special visitor center in Chesterfield, Michigan that contains a huge wall-to-wall layout of miles of tracks crisscrossing a make-believe scale model world. 13 transformers power 8 trains that simultaneously race across fields, around hills, over bridges, and through miniature cities and towns. 2 more trains circle the inside of the building on tracks suspended from the ceiling. It all started with a teenager devising an electric box that ran on homemade tracks. An interesting sales gimmick. That's all that Joshua Cohen had been trying to make, but instead he created one of the most loved toys of all time. The all-time best-selling and favorite car of Lionel Trains is the milk car. When the train stops, a little man comes out and delivers milk cans one by one onto a platform. The few female toy train sets in pastel colors are valuable curiosities today, and collectors will pay top dollar for them. Each year, Lionel produces more than 1 million engines, cabooses, and other railroad cars. If hitched together, they would make a train about 50 miles long. At the Cleveland Medical Lab, the ore dumping car of an electric toy train is used to transport radon, a radioactive material. Using remote controls, the operator brings the train from the storage room, stops it at the right spot, then tips the ore car to drop the radon capsules down a chute. A California coffee shop features a toy train, the tracks for which are laid out on the dining counter. The train delivers hamburgers, sodas, and shakes to customers. After customers remove their order, the train backs up and returns to the kitchen.